Hello everyone, welcome to Truth and Law. My name is Conrad Brogus, and this will be my video about Tyre Nichols. And because of the tragic way this happened, I want to give my condolences to his family, his mom, and just take a second before I begin and get into the material as a moment of silence in respect for Tyre Nichols. On this channel, Truth and Law, what I do is I'm going to talk about morality, natural law. That's the truth. That's the law I talk about, as opposed to man's law. And talk about the truth about what is going on in this world. So I go into the occult. I go into a lot of areas. But first of all, who am I and what do I know? And what I mean by that is, who is this guy trying to tell me, trying to tell every black man in America something about Tyre Nichols and about police brutality. So just about me, I'm a journalist. I'm trying to journal and talk about, report on what's going on in the world as far as injustice. I have a show called This Week in Tyranny on this channel, and I'm basically a psychological behavioral analyst. I don't work for no corporation. I didn't go to school for this. I'm self-taught, self-learned, but I am an expert as far as breaking down the psychological causal factors and connecting that with what's going on in America today. And the reason I can say that is because I don't have any political and ideological biases. I have no bias. I'm a political anarchist, right? Meaning I don't believe in politics at all. I only treat people based on their humanity, individual property, and their God-given natural rights, their natural rights given to them by the universe itself as a birthright. So nobody else is going to give you that perspective, and I've heard all the different perspectives. I've heard the mainstream media coverage about Tyre Nichols. I heard the alternative media coverage. I've heard some of the YouTubers, and I'm going to make a few points in this video that I think nobody else is making. One of the points is going to be, yes, it is about race. I know you've heard that it's not about race because these officers were black and so was the victim. I'm going to talk about, yes, it is about race. It does play a part. And number two, yes, police are the enemy of the black community and any community, my community too. Yes, they are the enemy. And number three is that everybody's trying to take advantage of the black community, black men specifically, because of take advantage of the wealth, the earning potential, the political power, the voting power, and most of all, they want to take advantage of the mind of young black boys and girls who would become a crucial, deadly opponent to this slavery system if they were come into a knowledge of self and self-respect, self-love, and alignment with natural law, which is natural law is the laws of God or nature or creation itself. They're moral laws for conducting behavior. And natural law is what the government is not going to teach you, because if you were to follow natural law, then you don't need the government and you don't need police. They have no jurisdiction over you, right? And this is not anything woo-woo. This is not anything super abstract. This is just real life. This is a street-wise, spiritual way to go about things. Now, I'm a very spiritual person. What I mean by that is I believe in the moral codes put forward in the Bible, because they also corroborate all the different religions of the world, and they corroborate, they align with the basic common sense laws of morality, which is, don't harm others. So, but your religions aren't going to tell you that either. But my background, I'm from Chicago. I live on the western outskirts, just on the suburbs of Chicago, and I'm one of those kids, that grew up started listening to Eminem and rap music, and then basically just, living in the suburbs. Kid from Chicago that's trying to hang around. So that's my background, and over time, I became friends with black men. Some of them I would consider my mentors, right? Like, I've gotten a lot of knowledge passed down to me from them. Like, my first Girlfriend was a black girl. Well, brown skin, young woman of Haitian descent. I understand that race in this country is a construct to divide and conquer, right? Because we all know, you should know, the history has been obscured, right? The history of the so-called black men in America, the brown-skinned men and women in America, to wipe away their knowledge and their history, because if they were to have self-knowledge and alignment with natural law, they would become very dangerous to the system and they would not be controlled. But anyway, back then, like, I was welcomed into the family basically, and I know that if I wasn't an outsider, if I wasn't like that, I would be checked on the porch. So I've been, a real. They treated me with respect, real welcoming, and just wanted to mention that the things I know is because I was given real honest. From a real honest perspective, I was given a look inside. But me, I used to sell drugs and spend a lot of time time with people connected to gangs and drugs. And a few years ago, I left that lifestyle, and I do what I do now, which is teach about natural law and morality, and try to achieve human freedom for all people of Earth, right? And the reason I say this is not that I'm some sort of expert on black culture, right? I'm not like an anthropological expert over here. That's not why I'm saying this. I'm just saying I've had the opportunity to see the good and see the bad, and I don't have a bias, is what I'm saying. I'm seeing this from a whole different perspective, because I never cared about social groups or social classes. But this channel, what it's about is exposing the current condition, which is covert slavery. What we have now is slavery, but hidden, so we don't see the chains. And the purpose of what I do is to achieve a state of freedom through knowledge of natural law. About what I mean by slavery is, I'm going to get into it, but taxation. If somebody can take your earnings, take a percentage of it through coercion, all the different laws and regulations we have, the taxes, the harassment, all the tickets. If you can't keep what you earn, then you're a slave. So that means when I get money taken out of my checks, or taking these taxes, tolls, all kinds of tickets, if they can make you pay that on your property, then that means you don't actually own the property. So all of us in America and everywhere else in the world, we are all slaves. That's what I mean by covert slavery. It means not ball and chain slavery, but essentially it is. So I was born in Poland, like 30 minutes from Auschwitz, which was the German concentration camps. And like members of my family, my ancestors in the 1940s were actual slaves in actual labor camps. Like from my personal family, my great grandmother, actual living under slavery in a labor camp. So the whole thing about slavery is real personal to me. That's another perspective I have that's unique. And I know there's different levels of slavery. I know that's different from generationally being brought up like that and never experiencing it. And even that is different from the lower level slavery, which we have today, which is just you're getting taxed, you have all these laws and what you can't do. But enough about me. Let's get into the video. These conservative commentators and the mainstream media and the YouTubers, they talk about Tyre Nichols like they haven't seen the video. And that's the bottom line. Either they haven't seen the video or they didn't really pay attention. Everybody's just trying to get their clicks and their likes and talk about this and use it to their agenda. And I did a breakdown of this video. I talked about all this. I'm not going to break it down in this video because I don't want to rant. I don't want to get as angry as I got on the last video. But on my last video, This Week in Tyranny, episode 9, you can find that if you like, where I break down the video and I really go in on these cops and what I think about them for real. But this episode is, I want to talk to the people, a different audience. I hope will get this, and just want to get a couple of things across. Number one, the government just needs to leave our communities alone, right? That a lot of people won't tell you that the black community is fine without police. You don't need government. You don't need all this. It doesn't matter how bad it is. we would all be able to deal with this if we had the right to self-defense. We could solve all these problems. They're basically creating an issue by tying your hands behind your back, and you can't deal with the problems in your community. So you gotta call the house slaves to handle your problems, and that's what police is. Police is the definition of a house slave, right? It's somebody that's given a little more comfortable lifestyle, and then they identify with the master, and they're the most cruel on the actual majority of the slaves, right? A house slave is like the lowest of the low, the lowest a human being can be, and that's what police are. And that doesn't mean that doesn't mean police can't reform. I've reformed from an immoral lifestyle. So can they. They need to leave it behind. They need to quit their job. Bottom line, we can deal with these problems. The people aren't stupid. We got access to technology, and I know there are a lot of problems in the black community, but we need to fix our own problems, personal responsibility, and that's what's going to get things better in this world. And if it has to get worse before it gets better, then that's what has to happen. Another thing I want to get across is just don't vote. Do not support government at all. I don't vote. I don't support government at all. I don't care who the candidate is. I've never been a supporter of any candidate. I felt it in my bones from when I was little. Government is the enemy of the people. If government helps you out at all, it's just a means to an end. They just do it. It's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You might get a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I've benefited from some government programs. That doesn't mean I support them, because any little money they give you back, any benefits, any tax returns, any insurance, it's getting taken out of the big slavery pot that they take out from what we earn. As I was listening to people talk about Tyre Nichols, the only person that I heard mention the term self-hatred, which is the first thing I thought of when I saw the video. I thought of self-hatred, and people tried to say it's not about race. Oh, see, it wasn't white cops this time, so this isn't about race. And I thought right away, nah, you're missing this. It's about self-hatred. It is about race. And who did actually say this is Van Jones on CNN, who usually I wouldn't expect to hear anything intelligent from. But this is what he said, and I agree that this is the effects of racism, the denigration of your self-esteem. And that's how these people come up, and they're beating up on somebody who's from the same community as them, that could easily be them. So if you could basically torture and kill somebody like that and laugh about it, then that means those people gotta think that they're trash within themselves. You know what I mean? And a quick story. A few years ago, I was over east, about like 74th and Ashland. So this is like the east side of Chicago. This is the area where I am not from. I'm completely the other side. I'm northwest. But I'm there with one of my friends and somebody who's from there. And I get pulled over because we were posted up. We were parked up by the side of the street in a neighborhood waiting for somebody. And I get pulled up. A Chicago police officer pulls me over. Well, he pulls up to me. I was already parked. Now, I got a gun under the seat of the car, so illegal, obviously. I was like 20, 21 at the time. And I got somebody, the person who was from there, he's drinking a beer in the back of the car, right? And he pulls up, and you could see we're not supposed to be there. So when they see two white kids with a black guy in the back, cops see that, they know it's basically a drug deal. It's a drug purchase going down, right? So they take me out of the car, this and that, and the main cop who was driving was a black man, a little bit older, maybe 35, 40, and then about his age, a white dude that was with him. He was like the other one. He was his assistant or whatever, man. He was with him, and he actually saw the beer and all that. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Why are you letting him drink in the car?" And at this point, I'm pretty sure like I'm going away. Like they got me. Just looking under the seat, they'll see it. They'll see the gun. And Basically, I give him the little. I start talking like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be here." I was just giving him a ride. I basically play it like I'm a square, which wasn't too far from the truth. I was involved a little bit, but it's true what I said to him is like, I'm not really from here. I'm not really supposed to be here. And this black man, he lets me go. Like with the beer in the car and everything. Didn't search the car, didn't find the gun, nothing like that, even though he would have done it easily. But my point is, if I was a black man over there, he would have searched me for sure. And he would have arrested me and he would have charged me with the guns and with the gun and everything. And I'm 100% sure of that. And I think that's a testament to that, maybe self-hatred. Yeah, it is. It's seeing somebody like me, for some reason, in his mind, made him identify me with somebody who's not to be fucked with, the way he would fuck with anybody from there. And that's just brainwashing. That's self-hatred. And police officers have to have a level of self-hatred just to be in that profession and follow orders. Just being an order follower means there has to be something wrong with you. It's a lack of self-respect inherently. So, got to give it up to Van Jones. He was right about that. Let me expand on the self-hatred more. What does it come from? It's like child abuse. It comes from child abuse, and that's what I see in the eyes of these 5 cops when I saw their picture. You can see in their eyes, they're glazed. It's like lost little boys, and that's why it's tough for me to. I hate them to a degree. I hate what they did, but I can't fully 100% hate them because I know that when they were growing up, all of us have a mother, right? They had a mom too, and clearly they were abused. They were not parented correctly. They had to get beat up. They might have been sexually abused. To grow up to be a police officer and just be in this pack of people, a pack of bullies who's gonna now abuse and mistreat the next generation and the other members of the community. This is just grown up, beaten kids, abused kids who never process their trauma. That's what the police are. And that's the big problem. What passes for parenting right now is just wild. I was never hit growing up. And I was brought up just being left alone. I think that's how children should be raised to a large degree. Just, can you maybe respect a young human being and just treat him like he's not a piece of trash? And maybe then they don't grow up to treat the other adults like they're pieces of trash. No respect, And think about when they're arresting and chasing this dude and beating him up, hitting him with haymakers, kicking him in the face, and then they're asking him about what you have. Like, they did all this to find a baggie of drugs. And so what if he was on PCP or something like that, which he obviously wasn't? Tyre Nichols, he was just minding his own business. They're saying he was reckless driving. That's a victimless crime. That's not a crime. He didn't harm anybody. And they're immediately putting hands on him and trying to pepper spray him and kicking him in the face. This was straight torture and abuse, and this was wild. This was crazy brutal. And I don't know if people are as upset as I am, because this was hard. This was like cartel videos. You're hearing him scream for his mom. This was graphic, man. It shook me up. Gotta be honest. But they're doing all this for a baggie of drugs. And what are those drug laws really saying? When they're saying that you can have this. It doesn't matter if it's crack or anything, if it's a joint, nothing. They're telling you, the government's telling you, you can't put this in your body. Not sitting where I am right now by myself, it's illegal for me to take a plant or anything like that and put it in my body. And what's that really saying? That's a claim of ownership on my body. That's saying I'm a slave. That's what all drug prohibition is. And when I explain this to people, most people get it. But then you got to go further. You're saying, well, should police exist at all? Should government exist at all? And if you're honest with yourself, the answer is no, no, and no. That's why I'm an anarchist. It's the only moral position to take. Either we're going to live in a peaceful world that's free, or we're not going to live in a peaceful world. Because look what they did to Tyre Nichols. There was no peace in that. No justice, no peace, right? We're not saying that. They're saying that. We're trying to be left alone. And I'm at the point where I don't know who else is with me. I know a lot of people are with me, but I'm ready to I'm ready to go down. I don't care. I could sacrifice all of this in a second. It's time for us to fight for justice. And I don't care if if, if you look like me. I don't care if you like me, if you don't like me. I'm going to stand up for freedom. And it's not about race. It's not about money or nothing. It's about principles. Because if we're living in a world of slavery and child abuse, what's the point of living in that world anyway if you're going to be silent? If you're just going to be silent and say nothing, if I was just going about my way to just say nothing and just trying to get as much money as I can, buy the nicest clothes I can just to have a life, try to get the best girl I can to live the best, most comfortable life, I'm not about that. It's about principles. First, we need to secure freedom. We need to secure the free will choice to set up this world in the right way. But there's no way I'm going to let anybody be enslaved on my watch. Even if they say, no, I like being a slave. Doesn't matter. It's not even your right to be a slave. Being a slave is not a right. So it doesn't matter if you support police. It's going to be taken down. It needs to be taken down because we are not animals. We are intelligent enough to bring our children up by ourselves the way we want to bring them up. And if it's wrong, if we're gonna make mistakes, then we're gonna face the consequences of our actions. Drug laws are basically saying that you don't own your own body, and that's slavery. And no one has a right to put their hands on you. They're running up to his car and just right away just grabbing him by his arm. Who's to say he's supposed to listen to them? He doesn't know if they're a cop. So what if you got your Dodge Charger with the lights on? You put your hands on me, it's gonna be self-defense right away. You know, Tyree Nichols would have been just as right to start biting chunks out of them. How are they going to put their hands on him? For what? Saying what? You know, dragging him out of the car. And then they were surprised at how strong he was. It was like, oh, we were hitting him with haymakers and he's still up. He's strong because he's fighting for his life. So prepare for that. For the police out there. Prepare for that. Because we're gonna be fighting for our lives. And you're scared. The police are scared out there. You're brought up in fear. Your first day of training was fear-based. I know in the academy they show you the videos of all the cops being killed at traffic stops. Well, you act like your job is so dangerous and so hard. Nah, you're just in a cult. You should just quit your cult because you're an enemy of the people. And I know the cops will not admit this, but this is how they think. They think of us. They think of us, the people, and especially the people in their community that look like them. They think of them as garbage. They think they're like a better species. And this is like a criminal species that is just, they were born like that and they're going to be like that. It's a cult way to think about it. Quick story about how they just started grabbing for him and he doesn't even know if they're cops or not. A few years ago, this was like 8 years ago, I was in a car rolling up weed. In the back, I have a bit of weed, scale, and baggies, right? This is like a quad of weed, not a lot, a quarter of weed, so 7 grams, which this was like 8 years ago. I know today that's nothing. That's 2 blunts today. But for me, I was selling 0.5s and grams back then when I was younger. And these guys from the neighborhood, plain clothes, right? Plain clothes, black car, but no cop markings, no nothing. They opened the door. They tried to grab me out the car, right? They grabbed me out the car. I was with 2 of my friends in the back, and they kind of we all knew they were cops, but I start pushing back. And then after, basically I surrendered. He, outside of the car, he's asking me like, why'd you resist? I'm like, why wouldn't I resist? I don't know who you are. You didn't say you're the police. You didn't say to me to put your hands up. You just came up to me and started putting hands on me. So that's how I treated you. I'm like, I don't know if you're trying to rob me. And he just kind of didn't say anything because that was true. He got treated by like a 17-year-old kid because you can be a kid to understand these principles. The police have no right to start just putting their hands on you. And I know there are bad people in the community who are going to do violence. There's child predators, right? There's thieves and carjackers. Like, I know all this, but that's why we need to have the right of self-defense, and all of us need to be armed and ready to defend the communities. And then we would build up the community. We have the camaraderie of a brotherhood and a sisterhood and a family in the community, and not looking to the house slaves to protect us, because that's wrong, that's backwards. So this video went a little bit longer than I thought. Kind of just wanted to rattle off, give my perspective. I'll have more video. Hopefully I don't have more videos like this, because one is too many. So there's so many videos like this coming out, and it doesn't matter which one's worse. You know, this is a genocide going on. It really is that. It's a culling in the streets. They're killing the people in the streets. And from what if we didn't have the body cams? 90% of the country would not believe this story if it wasn't on body cam. We got to start recording everything and being armed. Just always be armed, because self-defense is our responsibility. The cops can't protect us. The police are not on our side. The government is not on our side. So we need to stick together, bring ourselves up in a moral way, reform ourselves if we're living in an immoral way. And let me tell you this, now that I am reformed, I am not getting dragged out of no cars no more, right? I'm not letting that happen. I'm going to be ready to defend myself, and I hope you are too. So thank you very much. Thank you for checking out the video. Have a good one. Enjoy your week.